When President Reagan holds a news conference this afternoon, he will open with a statement on his economic program, and then he'll answer questions about that and about major international developments in recent weeks. It's Mr. Reagan's first news conference since he was shot. CBS News will cover it live beginning at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. The striking Major League Baseball Players Association resumes talks today with the team owners. It's the first talks since the players went on strike last week. And we'll leave you for today with a report from Jerry Landay on a national addiction of youth and what one small town in New York is doing about it.
In Irvington, these are some of the games kids play. Close encounters of the computerized kind, with spaceships on the attack, colliding asteroids, interstellar fortresses. The new video games are drawing hordes of would-be space cadets to their battle stations and gobbling up their quarters. Prompting some of their parents to engage in war games of their own against the machines. Critics petitioned the village government to limit the electronic invasion or stop it entirely, at least for those under 17, claiming that the new games are turning their kids into electronic junkies, devouring their allowances, taking their minds off their schoolwork, making them late for classes. Ruth DeVivo, a leader of the local PTA, has helped lead the counterattack against the video invaders.
The fact that these machines can come in large numbers into a small store in a community and that they encourage repetitive activity that costs money necessitates that we provide some protection for those children so that they aren't abused.
That's not how most of the young Star Trekkers see it.
The parents, I don't think they should be making such a big deal. Well, I mean, they're just games.
There's nothing to do in this town. There's no movie theater around here. Over here, there's the games. That's the only entertainment in this town.
Some kids do need to be regulated, but that's not really the town's problem totally. The parents should do that themselves. They can't leave it all up to the town.
You can get addicted to it. It's just too fun to stop.
Rubbish.
I teach you to look at things carefully. You gotta watch carefully so he doesn't fire at you and hit you and blow you up.
11-year-old Christine Ambrose, a champion at Space Invaders, and her mother Dorothy make other claims for the video games.
She has mentioned that she feels her hand-eye coordination has improved considerably, and she tried to demonstrate this by juggling 3 balls for me the other day.
Others claim the games increase their children's powers of concentration, cut down their TV watching and marijuana smoking. Last night, both sides got together for the 3rd time with the village trustees to decide what to do.
To deny storekeepers the right to make a profit, I believe, is unconstitutional.
If we can't control our own kids, we got one big problem. We got to start at home, not in this room.
The town elders produced a compromise. Licensing of the games. No more than 3 machines to a store, no age limit, voluntary supervision by shopkeepers. Observers suggest the Irvington affair symbolizes stiffening parental resistance to the age of permissiveness. But Mayor Reginald Mara downplayed it all.
The last time we had this much excitement over something was when they had the leash law in town. We decided that any dog out on the street had to have a leash. I think that was the last time we had this much fuss.
See you tomorrow.
Variety of weird guises. Defender, Pac-Man, Asteroids. To fans, they represent a challenge. But to critics, as Terry Drinkwater reports, they are a menace.
Come on in. It's almost another world here in the video arcades of America. 1 billion games are played every month, a quarter each for Escape, which can last a long time if you're skilled. Pit yourself against the computer. Millions, mostly teenagers, have. So many, in fact, that psychologists are beginning to worry that some youths are becoming spaced out on the space games.
You can get hooked on it.
Are you?
Yeah. It keeps on making you play the game. Once you start to play it for a while, you keep on playing it.
Any normal person would want to beat the machine.
And you come back?
Oh, sure.
Again?
Oh, sure.
Again?
Yeah.
Many cities have reacted by making the arcades off-limits to all under 17 from 8 to 3. This is the after-school rush in Oakland. Long hours at the screens, psychologists say, can lead to extreme introversion. Youngsters communicating in a video fantasy land and not with their peers or parents.
It's not addictive in the sense of a drug dependency where you're going to have withdrawal symptoms, but it is physically, you can become physically dependent upon it because you get an arousal and then a relaxation response. It's the same as a roller coaster or gambling or playing cards intensely.
Many teenagers are frank in admitting their dependency.
Well, it's the moving lights partly. Some of these games are really hard to do. It just takes a lot of skill, hand-eye coordination, and it doesn't cost as much as some other things, and it's legal.
Yeah, it's addictive. It is. Because you sit there and you just want to play it more and more.
We don't really prefer to use the word addictive. We think it's associated with negative connotations. We prefer to use the term compelling and highly popular, which obviously they are.
And the manufacturers add they teach a bit about computers, too. This is the current craze game, Pac-Man.
I like the little man. He's really neat. He eats up all the other things, you know.
How about that Pac-Man song that I hear around here all the time?
Yeah, you sing it a lot. You hum it.
Indeed, and play it on the jukebox at full volume. Psychologists remind us every younger generation has to have something to scare adults. Right now, all of this is certainly it. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, San Francisco.
And that's the CBS Evening News for this Friday. Leslie Stahl will be with you tomorrow.
Frightening as it may be to try and beat some of those new home video games, it can be even more frustrating and expensive when it comes to deciding which ones to buy. Well, Donald Diener offers some help.
Home video games, from an exotic and dangerous jungle adventure to a good old American baseball game. These days, you can find a home video cartridge to fit just about anybody's interest and skill level. Right now, there are over 100 video games out, and by Christmas, there should be close to 200 if all the manufacturers come through as promised. With these games ranging anywhere from $15 to $30, you can't afford to make a mistake and buy a dud.
I like them all, except for Pac-Man, which I thought would be a lot different than it is on TV, on the system I have. I thought it'd be more like the arcade version.
So you're not really happy with your Pac-Man?
Well, I am, except it's just how I thought it would be, and it's different than I thought.
How do you know before you spend your money which video games will continue to challenge, entertain, and even educate your children? You can't tell by just looking at the package because the description of the game will always make it seem like the most action-packed on the market. But video game experts say there are ways to get through the maze of video games and find the best.
This whole thing really got started with Pong, which was a little white blip that moved around the screen, and you had two little white paddles on either side of the screen. Now they're much more high-resolution graphics. The pictures look more real. The speed, the action, the sound effects are much more realistic, even though they're all fantasies or simulations. So in terms of state-of-the-art, I would look for something that has high-quality graphics, good sound effects, and that feels good when you play it, that feels like there's been a careful design job done.
Experts say before buying a video game, you should go to a well-stocked store that has machines set up so you can actually try some games. Talk to people who work in the store. Talk to friends or relatives who have home systems. Ask their advice about different games. And if you need even more information, there are now several consumer buying guides for video game cartridges. You can find magazines such as these at many newsstands. They actually rate the video games on the market, so you can see how well they went over with avid game players who've had the opportunity to try a lot of them. And for even more guidance, you can read a nationally syndicated newspaper column that reviews video games that come on the market. And they're coming all the time. The industry said it sold $230 million worth of home video cartridges last year. This year, they think they'll quadruple that figure to $1 billion and more. So if you're thinking of contributing to that figure, you still have plenty of time to do a lot of research. There are 130 shopping days until Christmas. Donna Diener for CBS News, Los Angeles.
Senator John Glenn
New game just introduced by Nintendo of America could turn out to be the hot toy this Christmas. And I can't keep our hands off it. This is called Game Boy, and industry analysts say that there may be a run on this as the holiday demand exceeds the supply. And joining us now, Howard Phillips, the Game Master for Nintendo of America. Boy, what a title. I mean, isn't this what every kid wants to grow up to be, is the Game Master?
They do.
Now, tell me, this is really the new innovation, is Game Boys. I thought you had to hook these things into your television set. You used to, but now that you can carry these around.
No, this one is actually, it's a portable game system, which means it's battery powered and it's got its own screen in it, and you can take it anywhere with you.
What's the price?
It's $89.95 is suggested retail. And like the Nintendo Entertainment System, it has cartridges so that you can change it from one game to another just by putting in a cartridge.
Now, you two are playing the game called Tetris, correct?
We're going to in just a sec, yeah.
Harry, you're ahead. You
Yes,
Started, I have to have an advantage.
No.
Okay, it does come with Tetris in it, which is a Soviet puzzle-type game, which is very, very addictive. I know you found out already on the show.
You know, what's funny is that this actually it's doing a lot of work for me. Harry was playing with this, and I don't know, he's got it in some mode. It takes a little bit of... I heard about the craze of Nintendo, and I never understood, but you said just hit all the buttons, just play with it if you're an adult, and you'll all of a sudden understand what the rules and what the functions are of each game.
A lot of adults are so afraid of technology and so afraid of computers, and this is a computer, a very powerful one, in fact. The way that you work with these products is just to get in and make mistakes and learn very quickly. It helps kids so much because they get in, they learn to make mistakes, to learn to make the right moves quickly. And to play with these games, that's what you do.
Howard, what's the importance of the sound? The importance of the sound, I mean, of the music, because you can choose music, and here it has kind of a little Moscow Nights to it, because this is a game created by a Soviet
It was fun choosing the sounds for the game when we decided which ones to put in. There's a classic sound, there's one that's got a Russian backdrop to it.
Is that the charm of Nintendo?
Yeah, there's a lot of things
audio.
that make up the charm of Nintendo. No, but a game is more than just what you see. It's what you hear. It's how you interact with it. It's how it plays, how I interact with.
Well, why don't you two play? You can show exactly this one, Tetris.
Okay. Well, he needs to push his resets on him.
I do.
You're playing by yourself.
I was doing so well. Okay.
You were playing a computer.
Yeah, right. Of course. Okay. I have to tell you, I hate this stuff. I hate it. I can't stand it. I took this thing home last night. I played with it for 15 minutes. Get the monkey off my back. This thing is addicting. This thing should be declared illegal. These things are terrible. If you had children, their brains would turn to mush. They spend thousands of hours with these things. Okay, they're great. Okay, so what do I need to do? Hit select?
Push all those buttons at the same time. Remember?
Hit start to continue game.
Remember how you push them all to get us started again?
Okay, hit start to continue game.
No, push them all at the same time. She's the pro.
You are the pro.
She's the pro. I should be playing her. Okay.
Then we get it through where he is. Up to
select.
Now to go 2-player select, and away we go. Here we go. We're going. Try it again.
Oh, there we go. We got game type.
Is it happening?
He's not there yet. He's not up there yet. You have to hit. No, you have to hit the start button.
I did.
Oh, he broke it.
I broke it.
You broke it. No, you didn't. You didn't.
Okay, wait a minute. I just hit all the starts all over again.
Anyway, for kids, this is real important. When you're a kid, you got to have fun. I mean, that's part of being a kid. When you're an adult, you got to have fun too. I think it's really important for parents to realize that any time in anyone's life, they need to have entertainment, and this is part of it, and it's portable.
No kidding. Howard Phillips, thanks for joining us. The new Nintendo game, folks. It's 5 before the hour.
Got a big screen TV, a VCR, a compact disc player. If you are looking for what is coming next in home electronics, consumer specialist Herb Weisbaum is about to show us. He is live from Chicago at the Consumer Electronics Show. Good morning, Herb.
Good morning, Harry. You know, those wizards of electronics have done it again, come up with neat new things you didn't know you had to have to make it through the day, and I found a few of them that I think are newsworthy to show you. First of all, this is from Franklin, and this is the world's only electronic handheld encyclopedia. On this little gizmo that's only 12 ounces is the 2-volume set Columbia Encyclopedia. All you do is press in an entry. In this case, we have Einstein, and the entry pops up on the screen. It even gives you a cross-reference so you can find other articles on that subject that's in this little computer. This will be on the market within days, and it will sell for about $400. Next, over here, this is from Samsung. This is the Scoutabout. It's a home service robot. It's a portable home security device. Now, we have some videotape of this little guy working in a home environment, and basically what it does is just scout about. As its name implies, it knows not to bump into the furniture. It's smart enough not to fall off the edge of steps. It sends out infrared and ultrasonic waves looking for intruders. If it finds an intruder, there's an automatic dialer, and it calls for help. This will sell for approximately $1,000, and they're trying to market this to people who don't want to have a hardwired system in their house. One more thing here, and if there's one breakthrough technology being unveiled here in Chicago, this is it. This is a prototype. This is new from Sony, and this is called the mini disc. And what this little unit will do is it will play pre-recorded music on these little 2.5-inch discs, 74 minutes, and you will also be able to record digital stereo sound on the little disc. Now, we have a gentleman from Sony here, and he has the only working model we know of in the world. Would you please play that? That's why he's holding it. Now, beautiful sound, but what happens when you jiggle and shake it? Try doing this with your CD player at home. No skips. That's because the unit, as you notice, the disc is out. It's reading 3 seconds ahead on the disc. That's why there's no jiggle and shake as with a compact disc. Thank you very much. So you're saying, Herb, what's new in the home video game market? Well, plenty. Take a look. The big guy in the home video game market has finally caught up with the pack. You're looking at Nintendo's much-awaited 16-bit home system, the Super NES. It's a big step forward for Nintendo fans. Better sound, better graphics, and much more sophisticated play.
This is positioned for the true heavy user who wants that next level of play experience, not for everybody.
And at $200 a pop, he's right. Nintendo's rivals are poo-pooing the new system, but they're not taking any chances. They're lowering prices and throwing in some extras. Sega's Al Nielsen.
We're lowering the price by $50, and Sonic the Hedgehog is a $55 value on top of that.
And for those who don't care about money, there's the Neo Geo system. It's a 24-bit system, light years ahead of the pack. But you'll pay for that extra playing power. The system will set you back around $1,000. But they're selling, not to kids, to adults who can afford to buy the best. A few more things to show you from Panasonic. This is like a video cassette recorder. I wonder why they didn't invent it before. This is a kid-proof machine. You just open it up and throw the switch, and it blocks the child from getting in. Neat idea. This is for all those of you who can't program your VCR. 3 out of 4 Americans can't. Also from Panasonic, the Program Director. LCD readouts, you simply dial in the date, the time in minutes and hours, push the button, and it programs your VCR. And finally, from Sharp, the Slim Cam. This is the world's, they say, lightest, full-size, big-size VHS tape, just a little bit over 3.5 pounds. Just some of what new being unveiled here in Chicago, Harry.
Herb, thanks so much. Looks like you're having a little fun there.
We are.
Thanks.
It's a flashy little computer that lets you play video games on your TV set. You know what this stuff is all about. It's been the best-selling toy in this country for 3 years running. 20 million of these things now inhabit American living rooms. Inhabit is a very good word. If you're a parent, you probably do or don't appreciate this very much. Naturally, some of these things break. I really don't know how to work these things at all. And when they do, there is a place they go, and this is where it is, the only repair shop in the United States for Nintendo games in Redmond, Washington, where they fix up to 1,500 games a day.
Joining us from the company's inner sanctum, Nintendo Game Master, Howard Phillips. Howard, good to see you again. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Is this a busy time of year for you?
You said 1,500. That's during the regular time of the year. Actually, right now, around the holiday season, we're actually up to about 5,000 a day.
What's the biggest problem with broken Nintendo games? What are you confronted with?
Actually, we got lots of problems. I mean, we've got problems like don't dry your Nintendo off in the oven if you happen to spill something in it. Don't use it as a car chalk. I think somebody ran over this one. This one looks like it's had a lot of fun, but actually I brought it in because it's got a little treat for you. This is one of the most common problems we have. It's pretty horrible, but bugs are one of the most common problems that we have for the video game system. And it highlights an important fact that you need to be aware of, and that's that the most common thing is that these get dirty. And if you do things like closing the dust cover when you're not using the system, using the game pack sleeves, things like that to keep the system clean, it really helps out.
So bugs crawl in. That's the biggest problem? Bugs crawl in and...
Well, bugs and getting dirty. I mean, it's almost like a record player, that sort of thing. You just need to keep the equipment clean. We've even come out with a game cleaning kit to keep the system clean so that you can do that yourself at home.
Among the other things that go on in the place where you are is there are game counselors. How many people call the Nintendo game counselors every day?
That's right. We get, on a weekly average, we've got about 140,000 phone calls in here. And of those, probably about half of them go to the game counselors, and they help kids and adults play their games, give them game tips, that sort of thing.
So these people say, I really know how to play well, and if you really want to play better, this is the tip of the day?
Well, games these days are so much more involved that, you know, you might play for a week or so and get really frustrated. So the gameplay counselors are there to help you out and kind of give you the tips and hints to get you farther into the game.
I guess I shouldn't be stunned by all of this. You also have a magazine, a paid subscription magazine, and what's the circulation?
That's right, Nintendo Power Magazine. Right now it's about 1.7 million. It's a 132-page magazine that goes out bi-monthly to players all around the country.
Wow. Now you have there's some new games that are coming out, and I suppose as we sit here and help feed the Nintendo addiction, we'd better take a look to see what folks can look forward to. Okay, let me show you what I've got here.
This is really hot. This is Super Mario 3. It's been a long-awaited game. Super Mario, of course, was very, very popular. Super Mario 2 was extremely popular. Now Super Mario 3 is coming out.
What makes this one so good?
This one's great because the old game, Super Mario, when Super Mario first came out, it only had about 512K memory. This one's got about 12 times the memory. The graphics are much better. Oh. Got it. The play depth is much greater on this one. It's got, I would guess, probably over 100 different worlds to it.
And some poor parents are sitting out there this morning wondering how it is they're going to be able to find Super Mario Brothers 3 and keep little Johnny or little Sally happy today.
Well, the good news is that things are really going to free up this year, and we should see a whole lot of these out very soon.
Okay. Howard, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Howard Phillips with the Nintendo.
It's the toy Nintendo didn't want you to be able to buy, but it's headed to the market anyway. In Seattle, Cairo TV consumer reporter Herb Weisbaum has the story of a video gizmo that lets you do some amazing things with your old Nintendo system. Good morning, Herb.
Good morning, Paula. Just getting a little early morning video game workout here. It is called the Game Genie, and if the folks at Nintendo here in Seattle had their way, you wouldn't be able to get it. In fact, they kept the Game Genie bottled up for more than a year while it worked its way through the courts whether they decided whether it could come to market. Well, Nintendo lost its lawsuit this summer, and that made video game people very, very happy.
Stop on a dime.
Choices, choices.
Ooh, and Affinity machine gun bullets.
That's what you get with the Game Genie. Choices. This little device, which piggybacks onto a game cartridge, lets you customize your 8-bit Nintendo video games.
It works!
With the Game Genie accessory, you can temporarily change the rules of the game. Change what happens on the screen. The Genie gives you 3 wishes. By punching in various codes, you get 3 ways to modify each game.
You can't totally go in there and totally revamp the game and change it, but you can make it a bit easier.
Glenn Rubenstein is a high school sophomore who plays video games and reviews them for the San Francisco Examiner. He thinks Game Genie is great.
You could start on a different level, you could give yourself more lives, you could make the game harder if you wanted to. Essentially, it gives you something new to do with your old games.
But Nintendo doesn't want you doing new things with its games. Part of what makes a game fun, the company says, is the challenge.
And if I can use the Game Genie and possibly finish a game in 20 minutes as opposed to several weeks, I don't really feel like I've accomplished anything.
Last year, Nintendo went to court and blocked the sale of Game Genie in the United States. Galoob Toys, which makes the device, fought back, convincing a federal judge that players do have the right to modify their video games, as long as the original copyrighted game program isn't permanently changed.
Just like the consumer can change how the sound is on a record on his stereo or his CD, can change the color on his color television set, modify how that looks, so too can the consumer change how his video game plays on a temporary basis.
You have the really experienced players who may find their games too easy, so they want to make them harder, or you have the less experienced players who want to make the game less challenging, so they can, fully enjoy the game.
Jump higher, make your own effects, and get radical firepower.
Go to any level. Game Genie is just being rolled out nationwide, and even at $50 a pop, toy stores are struggling to keep up with demand.
A lot of requests for it, a lot of requests.
The sign at this Toys R Us tells the story. There's more on the way. Check back with us soon. Store manager Greg Armada knows a hit when he sees one.
It's as popular as any of the hot video titles we saw last Christmas. Just as hot as any game.
And for good reason. 30 million American homes have the Nintendo 8-bit system. The Game Genie may breathe new life into these old units, now that they're being upstaged by the technically superior 16-bit system.
Nintendo is appealing the judge's ruling, but the genie's out of the bottle. It's on the market, and some industry analysts are predicting it's going to be one of the hottest sellers this Christmas holiday season. Paula?
Now, at $50 a crack, what kind of deal is that? How does that compare to Nintendo, and what else is out there on the market?
It's in the basic price range for what you pay for a good video game these days, so it's no more expensive really than what you buy a game for, and this plays with all the games.
So if you were to look at this through the Nintendo point of view, this isn't so hot, but if you weren't to look through their glasses, it looks like a pretty good deal, a lot of fun. Any downsides to the game?
About the only one is that if you have a problem playing a game with the Genie hooked up and you call the Nintendo hotline, they have a hotline where you can call in and ask questions. They can't help you because they're not supporting this product. That's about it.
So for folks that are into Nintendo, can you play this thing on a 16-bit NES system?
No, this only works with the old 8-bit system. It doesn't work with the brand new super-duper 16-bit system that's just hit the market. And Paula, you may be looking at this going, I'll never have this in my house. Your daughter's going to be asking you for one of these things when she gets a little bit older because yeah, really.
And you said they're going to direct these, they're actually going to market these specific games for girls.
Yeah, most of the game players right now are little boys, about 70% of the market, but they're now moving into girl games. They're working on a Barbie game, Nintendo is. So yeah, you're going to be spending some money on this.
No, I can hardly wait. Herb, thanks. Have a good day.
Video game giant Nintendo says it has been ripped off by one of its own suppliers, Samsung, and is going to court to put a stop to it. Herb Weisbaum of our Seattle station KIRO-TV has more on that.
Donkey Kong Country is the fastest-selling video game ever. Since its release last fall, Nintendo has sold more than 6 million copies. But the company believes video game pirates have also profited from the game's popularity. This is a real Donkey Kong Country game cartridge, but bootleg copies of the game have been turning up in countries around the world. Nintendo says hundreds of thousands of those illegal games contain chips made by Samsung, the big electronics manufacturer, which also makes legitimate game chips for Nintendo. Nintendo says when it found out about the counterfeiting, it confronted Samsung. And according to Nintendo, Samsung executives actually admitted pirating the Nintendo chips.
They assured me that they were no longer manufacturing counterfeit Nintendo computer memory chips.
Nintendo Chairman Howard Lincoln says the company decided to sue after the counterfeit chips kept turning up.
I cannot understand why a legitimate multinational company like Samsung would engage in this kind of activity, particularly when they would know what the risk would be if they were caught.
Samsung denies it all. A company statement says, quote, Samsung had no specific knowledge of any counterfeit activity relating to its products and deplores any misuse of intellectual property. This is just the latest skirmish in Nintendo's battle against counterfeiters. The company figures it loses $2.5 to $3 billion a year to pirates worldwide. Herb Weisbaum for CBS News.
It's 10 minutes till the hour. Ready for this? 9 out of 10 kids say they want video games for holiday gifts. But which ones? Cairo TV consumer reporter Herb Weisbaum is back with part 4 of the unbelievable toy test. Good morning.
Good morning. As you know, you can drop some serious money on video games, so you don't want to get stuck with a dud. To find out which ones are hot, we put dozens of this year's new games to the test. We set up our own video game arcade at the Pacific Science Center in Seattle.
I don't like that.
Thousands of kids, young and old, played dozens of new titles for 1993, then filled out our rating forms. Their favorite game, Jurassic Park. Now, a blockbuster movie gave this game instant name recognition, but it was a runaway hit on its own.
I think it's neat.
Basically, it's a shoot-'em-up game, unless you want to play the part of the raptor dinosaur. Then you get to eat your way through the game. Jurassic Park is Sega's most sophisticated game ever, and it scored lots of points for graphics. Another movie-turned-video game came in at number 2. Sega's Aladdin is fast-paced, bright, and colorful. Animators at Disney Studios did the artwork, their first video game ever, and you can see the Disney difference.
It is very, very nice. I love the music. It's just like Aladdin.
At number 3, an arcade classic brought into the home for the new Sega CD system. Final Fight is a rowdy street brawl with karate chops, jump kicks, and knife attacks. It can get pretty violent. At number 4, the top-rated game for Nintendo's Super NES system. It's a fun game with a funny name, Bubsy in Claws Encounters of the Furred Kind. Bubsy is a bobcat with a mission: save the world's supply of yarn balls from invading aliens. Another fighting game checks in at number 5. It's Shinobi 3. You get to make the Ninja Master, he's the good guy, do all sorts of acrobatic stunts. Here's the rest of the top 10. Number 6, Nintendo's Battletoads and Battlemaniacs. This action-packed game lets kids get a little bit silly by doing all sorts of weird things to the characters on the screen. Number 7, another Super NES title, Tiny Toon Adventures. Your challenge is to stop the pesky predators from getting the jump on your pal Buster Bunny. Number 8, Sega's Echo the Dolphin. Challenging yet non-violent. This game has an environmental message. 2 titles tied for number 9. Nintendo's Super Mario All-Stars is a whole bunch of games in one. Classic Mario favorites redone for 16-bit machines. And Batman Returns, a Sega CD title. Drive the Batmobile, pilot the Batboat as you fight the forces of evil. And at number 10, Nintendo's futuristic flight fantasy, Star Fox. With its special FX chip, Star Fox is the most technically sophisticated game Nintendo's ever released. We raced through a lot of games right there, but don't worry, we put them all in this year's booklet, including all the winners in the handheld game category, too. To get your free copy, all you do is send me one of these, a self-addressed stamped business-sized envelope, and here's where you send it. Herb's Toy Test, P.O. Box 50001, Bellevue, Washington. And our zip code is 98015. We will send it off to you. It includes all the results from all this week, all the toys we've been showing you.
All right, and the top handheld is Sonic Chaos?
Yep.
It's Sonic the Hedgehog?
Sonic the Hedgehog is back. I'd like to point one thing out.
Yes.
Jurassic Park and Aladdin are now also available on Nintendo. So you can get it, Jurassic Park or Aladdin, whether you have a Nintendo or a Sega game. They're basically the same kind of game.
Jurassic Park and Aladdin were the top 2 in the home top video games,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Did you get a headache from hanging around all of this?
3 weeks with like 36 games going at once or whatever, and all the kids. Yeah, it was mind-boggling. It really was.
Don't have to face this yet at our house. Thank goodness. 5 minutes before the hour. Good job, Herb. Stay with us.
Video games isn't holding back the violence. Mortal Kombat, 2 of the bloodiest games to date, were released yesterday. As Dr. Michael Breen of WCCO-TV in Minneapolis reports, it is once again raising serious questions about the impact of violence on kids.
Remember the innocent days when this was considered a violent video game?
Well, this is violence today. If you win Mortal Kombat, you can yank off your opponent's head, or literally rip the hearts out of their bodies. To put it bluntly, kids love it. How do you feel when they're pulling the head off somebody or they're ripping out their heart?
That's kind of the part I like best about it.
It's funny. Supporters say that's all this is. Funny.
I don't think it's too much different than what's on TV already.
But critics say the two are different. That with video games, you're not just watching violence, you're helping create it. They say boys especially are taught the only way to resolve conflict is through violence.
They don't learn how to be good mediators. They don't know how to resolve conflict as well as girls do at that same age in nonviolent ways.
Indeed, studies show for a short time children can be more aggressive after playing a video game. That may explain why not all versions of Mortal Kombat are the same. Now, Sega appeals to an older audience. Its version includes all those very violent scenes, those so-called finishing moves. But Nintendo appeals to a younger audience, and its manufacturers purposely haven't included those finishing moves. But in any version, Mortal Kombat brings violence in home video games to a whole new level, and the ones ultimately doing battle over this game may be children and their parents. At Mall of America, I'm Dr. Michael Breen for CBS News.
Hey, Mike.
Segment 1 this morning, cracking down on violent video games. Every parent knows that games are a hot item this holiday season. 2/3 of all American households have video game systems. But watch out, Mom and Dad. Some of the new video games depict extreme violence and sex. Connecticut Senator Joseph Lieberman wants adequate warning labels on violent video games. He joins us from Washington with his Chief of Staff, Bill Andresen, and Bill's 9-year-old son, Christopher. Good morning, all.
Good morning, Harry.
Senator, you want to introduce some legislation that quickly does what?
Well, these videos are violent, and you can't help but conclude that they contribute to violence in our society. Frankly, I'd like to have the companies stop producing the junk that's in some of these videos. I don't think I can do that constitutionally. What I want to do is give the companies a year to come up with their own warning system, point-of-sale information, so parents at least know what's going on in the videos.
You really believe this contributes to violence in the society? I mean, is this not the wart on the back of the monster or not the real thing?
It is not the sole cause, Harry, but it is a contributing factor. If you look at this stuff, you can see how stimulating it is. There have been a lot of studies done about violence on television that show a causal link. This material, I think, is even more threatening because people get involved. The kids are making the violence happen by their action, and it's awful stuff.
All right, we want to take a look at a clip of one of the segments of one of the video games that folks seem to be pretty disturbed about. This one is called Mortal Kombat. It's very hot. I don't know, I suppose it looks pretty much like most of the rest of the stuff that's out there.
Well, on that last scene, Harry, one of the characters actually decapitated the other, pulled his head off with a spinal cord, and the blood is pouring out. There's another version of that game out that omits that sequence, and that's really what the producer of it should do. This is awful stuff to have kids seeing and being part of.
All right, well, let's talk to one of the people on your staff. Bill, how you doing this morning?
Pretty good.
Okay, now do you have Mortal Kombat at your house?
No, sir.
Have you had it there?
I rented it so that the staff could see what it was like at the office, but that's it. I won't let Christopher have it. Too violent.
Yeah. Are there a lot of other products that are pretty similar to that?
Well, see, I don't know the answer to that question. I used to sneak off at lunch and play games like Pac-Man and Galaga when I was maybe 10 years ago, but I honestly don't know what's in a lot of these video games these days.
Huh. Christopher, have you ever played the one we just showed?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah? Do you like it?
Yeah. Cool.
Now, do you understand any of the arguments that you've heard against it that your father has just put forth, or that the senator has just talked about?
Yeah, my dad doesn't want me to play it because he thinks it's too violent.
And what do you think about it?
Well, I think I should be able to play it because most of my friends have it, and I don't think that's fair to me that they get to have it and I don't.
So is it really a kind of they get to and I don't, or do you think it's violent at all?
Some parts, but not all the parts.
None of it grosses you out.
No.
Yeah.
He has a pretty high gross-out quotient, though.
But that's what most kids have these days, don't they, Bill?
Well, it's a lot higher than it was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I don't, for a little boy who was sitting on Santa Claus's lap on Sunday telling him what he wanted for Christmas, it's a little...
it's unnerving.
Inappropriate for him to be ripping people's hearts out and jerking their heads off their bodies with with blood and gore spurting all over the TV screen.
Yeah. William White is with Sega of America. He joins us now this morning from San Francisco. How you doing, William?
Good morning.
You have your own rating system, right? Give it to us real quick.
Well, essentially, Sega took a very proactive role. About 18 months ago, we began the development of our own video game rating system and a parental information system for the hundreds of games that are available for the Sega systems.
Yeah, don't you have any empathy at all, though, for a guy like Bill who was sitting there in his house trying to play good cop for his kid to keep this junk out of his face and away from his brain?
Well, absolutely. As a parent of two young boys, I am in a similar situation as Bill, and I'm happy to report that over 90% of the games for the Sega system are rated GA by our rating system, which means they're really appropriate for children of all ages. There is a small handful of games that are for mature audiences.
But that ends up being what the kids really want, though.
Well, it's interesting. The teenage population generally does like a sports game, an action game, or an adventure game. But the biggest single group of games remains sports. And fighting games, like Mortal Kombat, actually represent a pretty small portion, less than 10%, of the overall sales of video games.
All right. I'm going to show a picture of something called Night Trap, which is, now do you guys make this game?
This game's available for our Sega CD product. The CD system is available now, and it's used primarily by adults.
Why on earth? Here is this terrible scene of this woman being attacked. Why even bother to allow your system to run something like that?
Well, Harry, the Atari generation has grown up, and in fact, now adults are playing video games more and more. This product is only available on Sega CD, and over 60% of the players of Sega CD are adults over the age of 18.
Yeah.
So just like adults like to go to R-rated films, we're producing a broad array of games, a broad array of software, and I think Senator Lieberman is right on target in developing an industry-wide rating system that provides the information necessary to make a decision on what's right for your family.
All right. This is more than we can do in about 10 minutes this morning. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Senator, Bill, William, Christopher, do appreciate it. Good luck, Bill.
Thank you. Not easy.
It ain't easy. Edie?
It sure isn't. 16 now after the hour.
18 minutes after the hour, the world's second largest maker of video games is about to follow the lead of movies and some record albums. Sega Video, which makes games like Night Trap, Mortal Kombat, and Streets of Rage, will now put ratings on all of its games to warn about sexual and violent content. Tom Kalinske is president and CEO of Sega America. He joins us from San Francisco, and in Washington, Arlene Zilke, the National PTA's vice president for legal action. Good morning.
Good morning, Harry.
Good morning.
Tom, let me start with you. Why are these necessary?
Well, it's a consumer service. The consumer's been asking us for a rating system. Parents want to know whether a game is appropriate for a 6 to 12-year-old. And we have a large proportion of adult players, and they want to know if a game is appropriate for them as well.
Well, we've got a little tape of one of your games. It's called Night Trap. What rating will Night Trap have?
Night Trap, it hasn't. It's going through the rating system right now. It'll probably be a MA13 rating on it, recommended for adults or people over 13 years old.
And this is a game where teenage girls running around in their pajamas are attacked by a bunch of bad guys.
Harry, it's a game about vampires, and the girls in 98% of the game are fully clothed, and in some portions they take showers. It's hard to take a shower clothed, but they're never showed naked. You describe it as scantily clad, I guess, but they're in pajamas. The bad guys are vampires, and they attack men as well as women.
I guess you may have opened a Pandora's box here, because over the last 24 hours, I think a lot of America is suddenly aware of the content of some of these games
What's the worst thing I can see on one that's rated for adults?
Well, we don't intend from Sega to make any that are rated MA17, but we thought it wise to have that kind of rating because, after all, a lot of people who make software from the computer industry, for example, may want to do a game on one of our hardware platforms. So we felt it wise to have that rating available. You have to understand that 70% of the players who own a CD-ROM machine are over 18 years old. They're not children.
Arlene, what do you think of all of this? Is a rating system a good idea?
Well, I guess we're happy to see that the marketplace is finally catching up with public opinion. Parents have been certainly reacting to the TV violence and the effect on children. And I think that as Congress continues to look at the seriousness of TV violence and the effect on children, they were likely to include video games. So this is a good marketing move, we would suspect, to try to put some ratings on. Our concern would be the self-selection of the criteria for the ratings. We don't think that that's appropriate. That will cause confusion. And there needs to be some sort of validation to the criteria that they select for themselves.
So would you like an outside board maybe to look at all of these games?
Absolutely. An independent body, just as the motion picture industry has an independent body. Otherwise, Sega is playing the role of judge and jury.
Tom, let me ask you this. With these ratings, would the sellers then be responsible not to sell these to certain age groups, or is it just incumbent upon... How is that supposed to work?
I think it's really incumbent, just as it is when you go rent a video movie for your family, for your children, it's incumbent on the parent to make the decision and decide what goes into the home. I doubt you rent R-rated movies for your 6 to 12-year-old child.
Not usually.
Just in this case, you would not bring a product into the home that wasn't appropriate for the child. Again, a large part of our audience is adults, not children.
Okay. Very interesting stuff. Tom Kalinske, appreciate it. Arlene Soking, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. Paula.
23 minutes after the hour. Stay with us this morning and celebrate 25 years of 60 Minutes with Morley Safer and Leslie Stahl.
Imagine if the entertainment industry created a video game in which you could decapitate police officers, kill them with a sniper rifle, massacre them with a chainsaw, and set them on fire. Think anyone would buy such a violent game? They would, and they have. The game, Grand Theft Auto, has sold more than 35 million copies, with worldwide sales approaching $2 billion. 2 weeks ago, a multi-million-dollar lawsuit was filed in Alabama against the makers and marketers of Grand Theft Auto, claiming that months of playing the game led a teenager to go on a rampage and kill 3 men, 2 of them police officers. Can a video game train someone to kill? Grand Theft Auto is a world governed by the laws of depravity.
Sorry, but I need this.
See a car you like? Steal it. Someone you don't like? Stomp her. A cop in your way? Blow him away. There are police at every turn and endless opportunities to take them down. It is 360 degrees of murder and mayhem. Slickly produced, technologically brilliant, and exceedingly violent. And now it's at the center of a civil lawsuit involving the murders of 3 men in the small town of Fayette, Alabama. They were gunned down by 18-year-old Devin Moore, who had played Grand Theft Auto day and night for months. Attorney Jack Thompson, a longtime crusader against video game violence, is bringing the suit.
Are you saying that Devin Moore shot 3 people in the head because of a video game?
What we're saying is that Devin Moore was, in effect, trained to do what he did. He was given a murder simulator. He bought it as a minor. He played it hundreds of hours, which is primarily a cop-killing game. It's our theory, which we think we can prove to a jury in Alabama, that but for the video game training, he would not have done what he did.
Moore's victims were Ace Mueller, a 911 dispatcher, James Crump, a police officer, and Arnold Strickland, another officer who was on patrol in the early morning hours of June 7, 2003, when he brought in Devin Moore on suspicion of stealing a car. Moore had no criminal history and was cooperative as Strickland booked him inside the Fayette police station. Then suddenly, inexplicably, Moore snapped. This is where it happened. according to Devin Moore's own statement, he lunged at Officer Arnold Strickland, grabbing his .40 caliber Glock automatic, and shot Strickland twice, once in the head. Officer James Crump heard the shots and came running. Moore met him about here in the hallway and fired 3 shots into Crump. One of those shots was in the head. He kept walking down the hallway towards the door of the emergency dispatcher. Once here, he turned and fired 5 shots into Ace Mueller. Again, one of those shots was in the head. Along the way, Moore had grabbed a set of car keys. He went out the door to the parking lot, jumped into a police cruiser, and took off. It all took less than a minute, and 3 men were dead.
The video game industry gave him a cranial menu that popped up in the blink of an eye in that police station, and that menu offered him the split-second decision to kill the officers, shoot them in the head, flee in a police car, just as the game itself trained him to do.
After his capture, Devin Moore is reported to have told police, quote, "Life is like a video game. Everybody's got to die sometime." Moore is awaiting trial in criminal court. A suit filed by the families of 2 of his victims claims that Moore acted out a scenario found in Grand Theft Auto. You, the player, are a street thug trying to take over the city. In one scenario, you can enter a police precinct, steal a uniform, free a convict from jail, escape by shooting police, and flee in a squad car.
And now I got the entire police force after me. You have to eliminate all resistance.
Nicholas Hamner, a law student at the University of Alabama, demonstrated Grand Theft Auto for us. Like millions of gamers, the overwhelming majority, he says he plays it simply for fun.
So you've already shot about 8 cops inside before you got out the door.
Looked about like that.
And now you're stealing a police truck?
David Walsh, a child psychologist who's co-authored a study connecting violent video games to physical aggression, says the link can be explained in part by pioneering brain research recently done at the National Institutes of Health, which shows that the teenage brain is not fully developed.
Does repeated exposure to violent video games have more of an impact on a teenager than it does on an adult?
It does, and that's largely because the teenage brain is different from the adult brain. The impulse control center of the brain, the part of the brain that enables us to think ahead, consider consequences, manage urges. That's the part of the brain right behind our forehead called the prefrontal cortex that's under construction during the teenage years. In fact, the wiring of that is not completed until the early 20s.
Walsh says this diminished impulse control becomes heightened in a person who has additional risk factors for criminal behavior. Devin Moore had a profoundly troubled upbringing, bouncing back and forth between a broken home and a handful of foster families.
And so when a young man with a developing brain, already angry, spends hours and hours and hours rehearsing violent acts, and then he's put in a situation of emotional stress, there's a likelihood that he will literally go to that familiar pattern that's been wired repeatedly, perhaps thousands and thousands of times.
But look, Dr. Walsh, you've got probably millions of kids out there playing violent games like Grand Theft Auto and other violent games who never heard a fly.
Right.
So what does that do to your theory?
Yeah. Well, not every kid that plays a violent video game is going to turn to violence, and that's because they don't have all of those other risk factors going on. It's a combination of risk factors which come together in a tragic outcome.
Arnold Strickland had been a police officer for 25 years when he was murdered. His brother Steve, a Methodist minister, wants the video game industry to pay.
Do you hold the people who created and marketed this video game, do you hold them responsible for your brother's death?
To one degree, yes, I do. Why does it have to come to a point to where somebody's life has to be taken before they realize that these games have repercussions to them? Why does it have to be to where my brother's not here anymore?
Still painful for you?
Very much so. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about it.
Strickland, along with the parents of dispatcher Ace Mueller, is suing Devin Moore as well as Walmart and GameStop, which sold Moore 2 versions of Grand Theft Auto. Both companies sent us letters insisting they bear no responsibility for Moore's actions and that the game is played by millions of law-abiding citizens. Take-Two Interactive, the creator of Grand Theft Auto, and Sony, which makes the device that runs the game, are also being sued. Both declined to talk to us on camera. Instead, we were referred to Doug Lowenstein, who represents the video game industry. Lowenstein is not named in the lawsuit and says he can't comment on it directly.
I would imagine you wouldn't feel comfortable trying to defend a game like Grand Theft Auto.
Well, it's not my job to defend individual titles. My job is to defend the right of people in this industry to create the products that they want to create. That's free expression.
A police officer we spoke to said our job is dangerous enough as it is without having our kids growing up playing those games and having the preconceived notions of let's kill an officer. It's almost like putting a target on us. Can you see his point?
Look, I have great respect for the law enforcement officers of this country, and I'm not going to they put themselves on the front lines. I don't think video games inspire people to commit crimes. If people have a criminal mind, it's not because they're getting their ideas from the video games. There's something much more deeply wrong with the individual, and it's not the game that's the problem.
I think a lot of people watching this are going to have a problem with the idea that Grand Theft Auto, the video game, somehow caused Devin Moore to actually pull the trigger, because that would seem to remove the concept of personal responsibility in this act. And at the end of the day, if indeed he did kill 3 men, wasn't that his decision? And shouldn't he suffer the consequences?
There's plenty of blame to go around. Fact is, we think Devin Moore is responsible for what he did. But we think that the adults who created these games and in effect programmed Devin Moore and assisted him to kill are responsible, at least civilly.
Thompson says video game companies had reason to foresee that some of their products would trigger violence, and bolsters his case with claims that the murders in Fayette were not the first thought to be inspired by Grand Theft Auto. In Oakland, California, detectives said the game provoked a street gang accused of robbing and killing 6 people.
They would play the game during the day and live out a lot of that game at night with their different types of street robberies.
In Newport, Tennessee, 2 teenagers told police the game was an influence when they shot at passing cars with a .22 caliber rifle, killing 1 person. But to date, not a single court case has acknowledged a link between virtual violence and the real thing. Paul Smith is a First Amendment lawyer who has represented video game companies.
What you have in almost every generation is a new medium that comes along and is subject of an almost hysterical attack. If you went back to the 1950s, it's hard to believe now, but comic books were blamed for juvenile delinquency. And I think what you really have here is very much the same phenomenon playing itself out again with a new medium.
Why do you think the courts have ruled against these kinds of lawsuits?
If you start saying that we're going to sue people because one individual out there read their book or played their game and decided to become a criminal, there is no stopping point. It's a huge new swath of censorship that will be imposed on the media.
Despite its violence, or because of it, the fact is that millions of people like playing Grand Theft Auto. Steve Strickland can't understand why.
The question I have to ask the manufacturers of them is, why do you make games that target people that are to protect us? Police officers, people that we look up to, people that I respect with high admiration. Why do you want to market a game that gives people the thoughts, even the thoughts of thinking it's okay to shoot police officers? Why do you want to do that?
Both Walmart and GameStop, where Devin Moore purchased Grand Theft Auto, say they voluntarily card teenagers in an effort to keep violent games from underage kids. But several states are considering laws that would ban the sale of violent games to those under 17.
Video game is being yanked from the shelves of some stores. That's because Grand Theft Auto San Andreas has some raunchy surprises. It's now rated adults only. CBS News correspondent Cynthia Bowers reports.
From the second it hit the streets, critics took dead aim on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, mainly for its senseless violence. But what ultimately took the game down was X-rated sex.
How about a little coffee?
Explicit sex scenes that the game's distributor now admits were hidden inside the game. Hackers found those scenes and made them available to anyone with a simple internet download. Visuals so graphic that a game already rated M for mature audiences had to be relabeled as adults only.
It was not meant to be exposed. It was not coded to be exposed. And, we took action when it was exposed.
Within minutes of that ruling, a billion-dollar seller that had been flying off the shelves was being carted off at this Best Buy in downtown Chicago. Like many retailers, Best Buy doesn't carry games with an adults-only rating. Just last week, senators, including Hillary Rodham Clinton, had called for a federal investigation into the case. Now some want to know what other surprises could be lurking inside the games our children play.
I think parents have a right to know what's in it so that they can exercise parental responsibility. But if they are, number one, misled by the company, and if the ratings board doesn't really know what's in the game, then we end up with the situation that we're facing today.
It's still not known whether the game's maker will face fines for not telling the ratings board about the hidden material when it submitted the game for review, or why the company built those scenes into the game in the first place if it didn't want them to be found. Cynthia Bowers, CBS News.
Grand Theft Auto is one of the most popular and controversial video games ever. In the past 11 years, it sold over 60 million copies. Die-hard fans lined up in New York last night for the midnight release of Grand Theft Auto 4. CBS News science and technology correspondent Daniel Seberg has more.
Hijacking cars, assaulting pedestrians.
Maybe we can kiss. Why not?
Picking up strange women. The Grand Theft Auto video game is back and expected to easily be one of the top-selling titles of 2008. As many as 6 million copies could sell this week, generating more than $400 million.
Grand Theft Auto 4 isn't meant to objectify violence. What it's meant to do is show how beautiful, how immersive, how deep, and how open-ended games can truly be.
Game reviewer Scott Steinberg says the game resembles previous versions. You can choose to carry out missions or simply explore a completely virtual world.
The most impressive feature of Grand Theft Auto 4 isn't the sex, it's not the violence, it's the storytelling and the depth to which the creators, Rockstar Games, have gone to make you feel like you're in a believable world.
Grand Theft Auto 4 is set in the fictional place of Liberty City, but the detailed streets and buildings look exactly like the ones here in New York. And that's angered local officials who say the game's signature violence and sexual activity will give people the wrong idea.
This game plays to old stereotypes about New York City. Today, we're the safest big city in America with the best police force. This game, if it was actually based in reality, would have 2 levels. Steal a car, go to jail.
And critics say it's just the latest example of games that can cause children to act out in an aggressive manner, though it's only available for kids 17 and up.
A lot of people think of video games as being for kids, and really they're not.
John Davison, a lifelong gamer and father of 2 young children, runs whattheyplay.com, a site dedicated to informing parents about what's appropriate for kids.
Here's what the experience is, here's what you have to do, here's what it's rated, here's what the descriptors are, and the context for that stuff.
But the backlash extends beyond the concern of parents. There have been plenty of attacks on Grand Theft Auto, including in 2005, when a lawsuit was filed against its creators, alleging the game was responsible for an Alabama teenager murdering 2 police officers and a dispatcher. But last year, a study found that while many kids have access to mature-rated games like Grand Theft Auto 4, they're not necessarily acting out in a harmful manner. One of the study's authors wrote, "We hope that this study is a first step toward reframing the debate from violent games are terrible and destroying society to what types of game content might be harmful to what types of kids in what situations." With Grand Theft Auto 4 now on store shelves, it's a debate that won't come to a halt anytime soon. For The Early Show, Daniel Seberg, CBS News, New York.
And several groups have called on retailers to keep the game away from children.